So I go to the audition, do the singing audition and the acting audition, and that went fine. And then I got a callback, and I was like, oh, sweet, I got a callback. Went to the callback. Well, the callback was a dance call with me and what in my mind can only have been a room full of professional dancers. And here's me, an idiot who's never danced a step in his life, cold sweat going down my neck. I was like, oh no. When I say I bombed, like, I couldn't have bombed harder.
Welcome to the Actor's Guide to the End of the World podcast, where we talk about acting in Hollywood in a way people understand. I'm your host, Econ Sung, and this is
Rían Kelly. How are you?
What's up, buddy? Follow us wherever you find your podcast at Actor's Guide Podcast. We're on all social media at Actor's Guide Podcast. Please leave a like, leave a review, give us any comment or feedback. We really appreciate it, and it helps the channel.
And it makes us feel nice.
So,
it's more important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It
feels
does.
good.
Actually,
so.
I do want to throw this out there. He actually might be listening. Shout out to Casey Babcock. Have not spoken to Casey in years, but he sent me a message and he loves the podcast.
Oh,
so
it's nice. Thanks, Casey.
It's little things like that really does make my day. If it's a blast from the past from our lives when you're like, I would have never guessed, but it actually really it's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear that.
Now, a word from our sponsor for today's episode. Does your pet get the yips in auditions? Does your little friend literally shit the bed at callbacks?
Welcome to the Royal Academy for Dramatic Barks, where your puppies will be trained by acting legends Ellen Barkin,
Mark Ruffalo,
and Sir Patrick Stewart. Sign up today.
What's up?
Hot.
What's up?
Chaotic day here. Chaotic.
Hot and bothered over in Los Angeles.
Absolutely. I don't know if you can hear the helicopters circling around, but there's been a lot of police activity today. Active shooter down at the mall there in Santa Monica, and a manhunt throughout the streets here. And still ongoing by the sounds of it.
This is not a test. There is an active manhunt. Thankfully, Rían got back safely so we can do this episode. So nothing will stop us from giving you the best Actor's Guide to the End of the World podcast here. But Rían luckily made it back alive. Not a great advertisement for LA, but this is literally what's happening in Rían's neck of the woods.
I don't know. I never came across guns before I lived in America.
I believe that. Yeah. Anyway, starting off on a cheery note. So on the show for today, we're actually going to talk a lot about LA. Well, a decent amount about LA. Mostly good news. Not about an active shooter, but we have good news coming out of film and TV. We have Governor Newsom's $750 million in tax incentives is moving forward. Also, we have FilmLA, a lot of progress with FilmLA renewing the contract. We're going to get into all the details about that. And then we also are going to revisit our conversation about creating your own content. What are the roadblocks? We also find out that Rían was a pop star in a former life.
Massively overblown, but but thank you.
So first off, let's talk about the $750 million tax incentive. Governor Newsom put that into effect or made a proposal last year. It made another step to getting passed officially. There was one vote this week. It is getting added to a bill officially. And with this last step, California film TV tax incentives will get the $750 million.
Nice.
Which is great. It wasn't guaranteed, but it's almost there. So we're almost there, and it could happen this week. There's another bill that we've talked about, AB 1138. AB 1138 will make the program more versatile for different types of productions. The bill will expand to sitcoms, animation, and large-scale competition shows. So there you go. So this is what we've been talking about over the past few months, and it might make it. It might make a step in the right direction, and California starts getting back into the swing of things. So this is great news. Really good.
Yeah, because I keep seeing videos pop up on Instagram about talking about how prohibitively expensive it is to shoot here. So unless something drastic changes, nothing changes.
So that's a great segue because the other big news coming out of LA, we have FilmLA. There was actually a big town hall. There was a meeting. I believe the board had to vote. So there was actually a little tension last week. So FilmLA, their contract is up for renewal. So a lot of people have been talking about permits. We need to rehaul how things are permitted in LA, making shoots easier, making it easier for filmmakers. So FilmLA was kind of in charge of that. Their contract was under renewal, and they were doing the vote. And Stay in LA, there's a lot of other voices. Adrian Nazarian was one of them, making a push to rehaul how FilmLA does permits. So we talked about this a bit. Karen Bass has been making a push to, making permits easier. If you're an independent filmmaker, you know a lot about this stuff. I vaguely know. I just knew it was hard, and I just know it's expensive. FilmLA is a nonprofit. So get this. FilmLA is a nonprofit that is supposedly in charge of helping filmmakers shoot their projects. It just so happens that you have to pay them for their services. Okay? So after all these years, everyone's like, productions are running away from LA, and we think that you guys might be part of the problem. So this is a nonprofit, and from what I heard, there's one tier, whether you're a Marvel film or an independent filmmaker, you have to pay essentially $900 base. And also supposedly FilmLA has been, over the course of the week, has been sending out emails essentially pressuring people to kind of back off. So that's kind of not a great look. I mean, we've seen several of these emails online, so we might put a couple of these links just in case you want to see it. But talk about a rock and a hard place. If they didn't get their contract, then it's essentially chaos because there's no FilmLA, and then you have filmmakers trying to do their thing when they lived and worked with FilmLA for years. Mm-hmm. Or you get FilmLA to overhaul everything. So they ended up with the board renewing another 5 years, which some people are like, we're locked in for 5 years. But FilmLA agreed to restructure and adjust to improve their contracts and make it easier for filmmakers. There's so many moving parts to bringing production back to Los Angeles. It's kind of nice to know that, hey, we are making progress. So Stay in LA was a big part of that. They were posting a lot. Either way, they did renew the contract, and they are going to reevaluate. But it's clear that there's still a lot of work to be done, and more pressure is going to be put on these lawmakers to get some change for a system that definitely does not work. So we'll keep an eye on that. Just hoping for the best here, but we are making progress in Los Angeles. So
we're not making movies yet, but we're making progress.
Yeah, exactly. That's our word around town. I feel like this is a good episode for picking up round 2 of talking about creating our own projects. This is the time. There's a lot of people who are itching, who are hungry to make their own stuff, make their own work. I saw a talk not too long ago. Lin-Manuel Miranda, who's a Broadway genius, created Hamilton, and several other plays and musicals. Lin-Manuel Miranda was having a conversation with Leslie Odom Jr. Okay, so for those that don't know, Hamilton is about Alexander Hamilton, a lot of relationships, and it's a historical retelling of that time, set with many diverse characters, and also a lot of rap and hip hop. So it was kind of revolutionary for the Broadway world, which is part of the reason why it's such key. Younger people, younger audiences love it so much. And I don't know if you're familiar with these musicals or if you're familiar with musical theater.
I loved it when I was a kid. Musicals are really impressive to me, but I just haven't seen enough of them. My worst audition story ever is, did I tell this? Did I tell this story before? It was for a musical. So,
oh my God. I was
Just to
actually
say-
wondering if you're a singer. Yeah, let's get into this.
I can sing a bit. Singing
Oh,
the
okay.
singing wasn't the problem. This is years ago when I was living in Dublin. I got an audition for West Side Story, right? Which is a pretty famous musical. I, got all this stuff. I'd never seen it, so I had to watch the movie. I watched the movie, got the songs and whatever. So I go to the audition, do the singing audition and the acting audition, and that went fine. And then I got a call back, and I was like, oh, sweet, I got a call back. Went to the callback. Well, the callback was a dance call, like a proper full-on dance audition with me and what in my mind can only have been a room full of professional dancers. And here's me, an idiot who's never danced a step in his life, except, in nightclubs, drunk out of my mind. So when I say I bombed, like, I couldn't have bombed harder. I tell you what, I tried to keep up. So the choreographer who was doing the thing is like, okay, guys, here's the routine. And did like this insanely complicated series of moves one after another. And everybody else is nodding. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And I was like, what do I do here? Do I just leave? Or do I give it a shot? So I just went, fuck it, I'll give it a shot. So I tried to keep up with these professional dancers who were used to dancing and routines for about, I would say, a minute and a half. And everybody's looking at me and the choreographer's looking at me. And I was like failing so hard and so miserably and so out of my depth. And so I just stopped and went, I was going to leave. And he goes, yeah. And that was the end of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like a bad dream. It was like being in school, like, and realizing you had no pants on or something. I was like, this is the worst.
I was going to say, this sounds like a Teen FA movie or something.
The cold, but even when I figured out what it was, like the cold sweat going down my neck, I was like, oh no. And I don't know what possessed me to try and bluff it.
Oh no, I think that's the actor move. I think you got to go out with your guns blazing for sure.
Probably.
I had a personal achievement this past month. Benson Boone, I don't expect you to know who Benson Boone is. I didn't know who Benson Boone was. He's basically the hottest male, young, hot singer around right now. He's a white guy with a very cute mustache, very charming guy. I absolutely do not know who he was if I didn't see my sister watching him on Jimmy Fallon this week. My point is Benson Boone happened to show up in New York, in Soho, the area in Soho. He gave out a bunch of JBL speakers. The city went mad, tore the city apart. Now, here's the thing. You and me might be the only people who really don't know who Benson Boone is. He sold out his concert in literally 8 seconds. He's been on Coachella, all the Grammys. He's already been on all the award shows. Everyone loves this guy.
It sounds like you love this guy.
Oh, no, I absolutely do love this guy. For someone
Okay.
that doesn't know who he is very charming. So we go to JBL. It just so happens that we happen to walk into a Benson Boone karaoke contest. The first 10 people who sing a Benson Boone song gets a free speaker.
Well,
And you know how me and my sister love free stuff. My sister was going to do it. I was like, you're going to do this? I was like, well, you need a speaker. Go ahead. I'll film you. And I was so resistant. I'm waiting in line. First 10 people. We literally are in the front of the line. I can get a free speaker if I want. I'm like, there's nobody in the store. I'm like, am I really going to be singing a Benson Boone song? And I don't even know who he is or know any of the songs. And me, I faced my fears. Some dude who was absolutely horrible was before us. And he goes, dude, just get the speaker. Give it away as a gift. You're there. It was the greatest advice ever. My sister sings. She was, to be fair, not great.
your sister gets an awful hard time on this podcast.
That's true. It's a test to see if she listens.
It's very funny.
Yeah. I'm baiting her. I sing in public. Not only did I choose the song, the one song that I thought I knew, he played a different song. I sang in public for what I thought was an eternity for 3 minutes. My sister said I actually sounded good, and the employee thought I sounded good. She probably said that to everyone. My point is, so the fact that you actually sing in public, I think that's actually really admirable.
I had a single out in the Irish, in the Irish download charts, I believe, at one point.
No way.
That's a whole other story. This is like in
What
the
on
early
earth?
2000s, early 2000s.
Oh, we got to talk about this. I didn't even know. I didn't even know about that. We'll get into that. You are so light years ahead of me. The fact that you had an Irish single that I tried to sing a karaoke song of Benson Boone with 10 people in the store, and I almost died. That being said, I'm very proud of myself, and I was facing my fears. And who knows? I might actually start singing a little bit. You never know.
Absolutely.
You might see me at the karaoke bars, everyone.
And now it sounds like you're a fully fledged boonie, which I assume is what they call his fans.
Anyway, so Leslie Odom Jr. who's a big star now. He talked about why Lin-Manuel was the best to work with. He said part of his genius is that he allows other people to just be as brilliant as him and shine just as brightly as he does. Lin-Manuel is obviously the writer. He's also in it and everything, but he's the mastermind of Hamilton and In the Heights. And Leslie Odom Jr. also said this quote, "Some people only let you be as tall only when you're walking on your knees," which I thought was very poetic. And I thought was really interesting. He's right. Some people don't let other people outshine them. Some people have to be the star of the show. Lin-Manuel is not. He's not like that, and he never was. And there's a reason why he's kind of like, a Broadway, phenom and the golden boy. The reason why I bring this up is that's actually kind of a great lesson for anyone creating their own project. Lin-Manuel explains, he goes, I feel like I'm always making a High School Musical. I'm making a High School Musical. I'm trying to compete with band, with the football practice, with everyone else. I need to get my cast to get on board. I need my shit to be the coolest, funnest shit around because I'm competing with everyone else and they're not getting paid.
What does he mean by that?
Or if he's putting together a musical in high school, it's basically extracurricular activity, right?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. So he feels like he's always making a high school play where he's competing with a bunch of other things that might be more interesting, and he wants everyone to get on board and have a great time. Because it's that kind of mentality where, you have to get these people to be in your musical, right? He is always competing with, and I think that's the metaphor. If you're starting something small, or you're putting together an independent film, or you're putting together a web series, I think that's actually kind of the perfect mentality. It's how do I make this the greatest experience where as much money as you might have, you're not going to be paying as much as HBO Max. If you have anyone who's going to show up on time, be professional, be part of your vision, and essentially take a pay cut, make it the best time ever. Everyone that I worked with on my projects, absolutely indebted to. I still to this day, and I'll speak from experience in LA. A lot of people want to say that they're in charge or producing something, but they don't actually. They actually just wanted to say that they're a producer. They didn't actually want to produce the thing. A lot of people want to say that they're a director and just boss people around. A lot of people care about what they're actually doing on set versus, hey, let's try to make this the best thing possible. So I think what I'm saying is, and this kind of goes back to like Kirsten Sheridan and the episode that we did with her, where we talked to great directors and there's not a lot of ego. If anything, how do you set the table for actors to shine? And I think that's kind of like, this is a good place to start if you're creating your own stuff. I was indebted to everyone who came on my production, any actor who donated their time. The first, I said this last time, the first season, the first few episodes was shot on iPhones, so we tried to keep it really, really simple. The second season I had a friend with a beautiful camera. I had DP. We had real crew come in, and they just wanted to be part of the show. They were all down to play, and if you're not a dick, chances are people want to shoot. I think people are hungry right now. People got a little time. There's not a lot of jobs out there. There's not a lot of money out there. Let's be honest. If you're working a current streaming show, you're actually probably not getting a lot of residuals either, because of the way the pay works. There's not a lot of work for the middle class and younger actors. You really should be making your own stuff because no one's getting paid anyway.
Okay, so let's talk about what are the barriers to that. And I'm asking because I have some barriers to that, some mental barriers to, and I do. It's not like I haven't tried it, but I find it difficult. You know, like when we were talking to Kirsten and she talks about how hard it is to write sometimes. Making your own stuff, I absolutely agree, is probably one of the best things you can do as a creative person. What are the barriers that you come up across? Because I'll tell you what mine are. One is, I don't know where to start often. Two is believing that I don't know how to do whatever I'm setting out to do, or my goal is too big. Like if I sit down to write, I'm like, this has to be a great short film, or this has to be a great feature-length film, or this has to be a really great story. I bring some expectation to it sometimes, which I find is a barrier, is resistance. And so I find there are a lot of resistance shows up in a lot of different forms. And when I've done it, when I've broken through that stuff, and, you know, I write sometimes with, I have a writing partner and we write together sometimes, Murray Cummings, who's a really good, he's a brilliant documentary filmmaker. He made a great documentary film about the singer Ed Sheeran, about how he writes his songs, and it's called Songwriter. But Murray is great at like just sort of doing stuff. Also, Owen, my pal Owen Mackin, is also hyper productive in terms of like, and we'll have him on the podcast sooner, I think, rather than later. But he's written 2 novels. He's directed movies. He writes movies. Like he writes and produces and directs things in a very admirably effortless way, it seems. And I'm sure it's not effortless, but it looks like he's just churning
That's
it
awesome.
out. You know, pretty easily. So, you know, it's interesting to me, what are the barriers to doing your own stuff?
Yeah, let's talk about this. I'm glad you asked, because this is the time to dig into it a little bit. So I was actually, before you brought up your partner, I was actually going to say, a great first step is finding a good partner. So, what kind of stuff were you guys writing? I mean, you don't. have to be
we'd
specific,
write
but
like comedy sketches and stuff. Or he came to me and he's like, "Hey, you're going to help me write some of these sketches." So we would sort of just brainstorm and write these sketches, which he animated. He gets them animated. So I've experience in writing like sort of animated sketches with him, and then we started working on like a feature idea that he had, which has been really enjoyable. And we haven't done it in a minute, but it's I found the experience enjoyable. But for me, it's about finding a way to write that takes away the pressure of what it's going to be. Taika Waititi, the director, talks about this in a brilliant way. I love what he says about writing. He's like, some days, you know, writing is sitting down and staring at the screen and then just closing it, and sometimes that's what writing is. But he uses different things to write, like where he'll talk about like, what's a cool piece of music that I'd like to have in a film, and maybe write a scene with that piece of music in mind, or what's like a cool scene that I'd like to see, and here's another cool scene that I'd like to see, and he kind of just puts them together like that. So he's a really interesting and sort of novel approach, I think,
yeah, he's a genius. He's so
to
good.
writing, and it shows in his films. They're very entertaining and fun and funny.
Real quick, I just saw something pop up on Instagram. Christopher Nolan wrote, and I'm paraphrasing, "You don't need to be typing to be writing," which is brilliant. So basically, it's a lot of the writing is maybe staring at a blank screen, but also a lot of writing could be taking a walk, thinking about
Yeah.
ideas and all that stuff. So let's dig into this because I think this is great. So these are some practical first steps. And now here's the thing. Now, and we talked about this a little bit recently. Part of what, because you and I are very different in certain ways, or kind of different in certain ways. And I would say that we kind of complement each other fairly well. If you're looking to partner up with a creative person or a creative collaboration, ideally you hope that it would complement someone's strengths, would complement your weaknesses, et cetera, and you guys can both grow together. What would be the next step? What if you committed to doing a sketch on camera and actually posting it? You would still be writing the sketch. You obviously are acting regularly. What would it be like if you were actually directing yourself, or someone was directing you and you were writing these sketches on camera? Because there's still, you're like, that's just one step, I think, further of putting yourself out there, right?
No, I was just going to say, like, there are people, I mean, I really admire people that do that. There's some phenomenal people, comedians and people who do those sketches that they just put out all the time. I've mentioned them before in the podcast. I'm in awe of them almost. You know what I mean? But I love that idea. And okay, so that's something that, that's within reach. I can commit to doing that. I can commit to doing a sketch.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of what I've learned from creating my own stuff, or with my co-creating, a lot of it bleeds into this. I cultivate the strong desire to express myself. Before I created my web series, that wasn't that long ago, 6 years ago, I was already acting. Dude, I was scared. But I knew that there was something in me that was like, okay, I need to get these stories out. My point is with enough leverage, there was a handful of stories. First of all, I was crafting with my friend. It got to the point where if I don't get this out, I'm going to die. Like, it needs that much leverage. Okay? It needs to be like say, for example,
that's how it felt to you? That was the...
Absolutely. Every
Okay.
week we do this, and I don't want to sound dramatic. The best times that I have doing this podcast is when I can't wait to talk about this. If I don't talk about this with Rían, I'm going to die.
Wow.
So just keep in mind, I know. It's funny, we were talking about whether I was intense last week. So
more intense than I thought.
This is the motor that's in me. And, it starts with morning pages in the morning. Sometimes you're doodling and you're just writing some pages first thing in the morning, and you're like, okay, this is something that's bothering me. I can't figure this out. Maybe this is good for the podcast, or maybe this is a great TV show idea. Anyway, so starting out from that little nugget, and, it depends on the type of person. Some people, and I vouch for experimenting with both, if you need caffeine or if you need to be in a great mood, freaking chug the caffeine and start writing. Whatever you need to do to kick you over that edge, I will absolutely do it, because it's that hard sometimes to actually get to work. I need that kick. If you're going to treat yourself to a scone and a coffee, freaking do it and just chug it, okay?
Chug that scone. Right. Chug it and right.
The other flip side of it, and this is these are all various things that writers say. Write what makes you angry. If you needed to get to that page or get to that typewriter, I don't know if anyone uses a typewriter anymore. If you needed to get the initiative to actually get to the page, find what makes you angry and start with there. So those are both sides of the coin, where obviously you're experimenting, you're seeing what works, you're seeing what you care about. Urgency helps out a lot. A deadline helps out a lot. The indie little short film that you shot in 3 days with your buddies in Ireland.
Yeah.
There was a deadline. The short film that I did with my co-writing partner, it was the time of It coming out. The It is the scary clown movie. He pitched me this idea. What if it's a documentary following real clowns? Because of the scary clown representation, it's ruining their lives. When he said that idea to me, I said, drop everything. We have to do this now. Now, here's the thing. And we were going to shoot this and release this by Halloween. I had a deadline. I literally dressed up 5 of my friends in full-on clown makeup, clown costumes, walking around Hollywood. We got it out on Halloween. We'll put the link in the show notes. I will never do anything more proud than I am of this short film. We did get some good things at festivals. I don't care if I haven't directed anything. I was fairly confident. We did all the legwork. We wrote all those things. We got it done. We're like, let's just see what happens because it's so clear in my head.
Some of it is judging what I'm writing as I'm writing. The voice in my head going, that's not very good. You know, that's not good. That's boring. What are you doing? You know, there's the negative self-talk in my head sometimes. As well, there's a thing with script writing where I've had to really force myself to get used to the format. Even though I read scripts all the time and I find, you know, I like the format. When it comes to writing it, I'm like, oh, you know, how do I do this effectively? I find it very easy to write descriptively. I always have. Like, I like writing stories. So I like sit down. I have a book of short stories there. Not full short stories, I will say. But I went through a phase of like, every day I would write a page of a story. Whether it was like just the beginning of a story, I'd pick a title, or I'd pick a line of dialogue and I'd just start from there. Or I'd try and like write, I'd like contrive an awkward situation that I had to try and write my way out of. So I'll play around with it like that. But when it comes to translating them into a script, sometimes I find that difficult to like take it from there and put it into that format.
Dude, I love this. Let me throw this at you because I'm so glad you brought this up. A couple tidbits. It's very appropriate for this, but also if you're listening, this might help just joggle around some ideas. I totally know what you mean. If you feel it's better to write or easier to write, do it on a notepad, literally by hand, if you have to. Sure, it might use up a lot of ink or a lot of paper, but either way, you're writing. Or a lot of people use the freaking Apple iPhone notes and just jot down that because it helps them have the clean slate.
Yeah, I do use notes a lot for ideas.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Duplass brothers write everything out by hand. I saw them in an interview. They are also quite inspirational in talking about. There's a video, it's kind of a famous video or a viral video that went around of one of the brothers saying, "The cavalry's not coming. You are the cavalry. Don't wait for someone to make your movie. Just go and make it."
Exactly.
But it's
Mark
I like,
Duplass.
yeah, I like talking about this stuff because I think resistance is something that a lot of creative people experience, and I certainly do. So it's nice to hear other people's experience of it and how they get around it or what they do to just to break through it. There's a great book. This is going to be my hidden gem for this episode, but I'm just going to drop it early because we're talking about this stuff. There's a brilliant book, which if I can see it there on my bookshelf, I will pull it out. It's called there it is. It's called The War of Art. And it's by a guy called Stephen Pressfield. And it's written in very short, short sentences, but it's all about resistance and breaking through your creative blocks. But it's a really good book. It helped, I got a friend of mine, Scott put me onto it. It really helped him overcome the blocks that he had to creating. And now that's kind of what he does. He travels around, he makes YouTube videos. He works with the organizers of a thing called the Found Footage Festival, but he has a very niche kind of a niche sort of a thing that he does, and there's a market for it and people love it and he really enjoys it. But he's found that, and he also creates art as well. He's an artist, but he found that book really helped him like break through whatever was holding him back. So I'd recommend that to anybody. That's my hidden gem.
That's
because
awesome.
I don't have another one this week. But I think that's
All right.
that's a topical one,
That's
considering
worthy.
we're talking about this stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
That is a worthy hidden gem. I think it's spot on. So a couple things about this. It's how do we break through? What are some practical things? And even talking about it, and also it's like, accountability partners, whatever people need and kind of can get that going. Tarantino is one other writer who I believe always writes by hand. If whatever you can kind of turn the sensor off and quiet the voices in our head to do this creative work. Trust me, I know, or I can understand how horrible it is. We need all the weapons we have to try to get around it. The one other thing that's kind of tangential to that, this idea, and you know, another nod to Kirsten Sheridan, because when she talked about this, when she pitches stories and she talks about stories, she pitches her kids. She pitches her kids and she tells them, "Hey, what do you think about this? Yada yada yada." She's not the only one. That's not the only time I heard of it. I believe it was Paul Schrader, a great screenwriter, wrote many classics. He argues it's a filmmaking, at least. Let's just talk about film. Is an oral medium. Storytelling. All of this is an oral tradition. Tell a story to someone. Tell a story to someone. And if you could tell the story for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, without them getting bored, you might have a feature film there. And that's literally it. How do we keep this so stupid simple?
I've also heard that, you know, a lot of people I've heard talk about this. Just get the first draft out. Even if it's garbage in your head, just get the first draft out. You know, they say writing is rewriting, but like, and you know, I've sometimes find that the hardest thing is to just get something finished and get it written. And I've done it a few times. I sat down, I wanted to finish something, so I started just writing scripts on my computer, like on Final Draft or whatever. I'd write 10 pages of a script. I'd say, I'm going to write a 10-page script. I'm going to finish it. It doesn't matter what it is. But I did that a few times and I finished it. And I felt such a sense of accomplishment. Even if I never went back and looked at that script again, or if it wasn't something that I, you know, wanted to really remake or revisit, the fact that I got it finished gave me a lot of confidence to kind of move forward a bit. And I guarantee you could go back and look at those scripts now and they'd be probably shy. But it didn't matter. You know, it's just the fact that I did get them finished.
One last thing before we wrap up here. Let's say, for example, you were asking for practical things. What was lacking for me is I didn't give myself a runway. I wanted to do a web series. People were like, well, web series, everyone's doing a web series. What are you going to do? You're going to sell it to Netflix? What? We were just like, let's just make a great show. It stands on its own, and maybe something happens about it. Naturally, there's no celebrities in it, and no, it didn't get sold to Netflix. We were very proud of it. We did 3 episodes, okay, the first season, and then we did another 4 episodes the second season. My point is I didn't give myself enough runway to have many, many, many episodes to keep doing it. I did 3 episodes. We love it. We're proud of it. It took me, you know, a certain amount of months to do it, and then we did another second season. There was nowhere to go with it, meaning that now, whether it's social media, whether it's YouTube, whatever, what have you, give yourself a runway and stick to it. And also, it just so happens, here we are doing a weekly podcast. This is the only consistent thing I've ever done in my life. This literally is the only thing that I said, hey, let's try to do this every week. And what is it going to look like if we actually stick to it? And here we are. And then I see the benefit of it. If we did our web series, which we technically we could have, it might have killed us, but we technically could have done episodes longer, weekly, and people who put that much more work into it, they win.
That's the key, I think, is consistency. And even the people, I don't think you have to kill yourself, but you do have to be consistent, I think. And I see the people who put out the sketches, just do it all the time. Some of them hit, some of them don't hit, you know what I mean? But it's just it's the frequency and the volume of them that ultimately over time, there's going to be great ones in there. So
exactly. And either way, if one of them doesn't hit, then you have the next one to move on to.
Absolutely. And you're not precious about it because you're doing it all the time. You're not precious about it. You're not depending on any one to be, you're not waiting to see how it does or watching the likes and it's like this podcast, like, you know, we just fire it out every week. Like, I don't worry about it. You know? Anybody listens, great. If they don't, cool.
Can you imagine how much someone would be overthinking if you put out a sketch every 6 months and you only have the next 6 months, or let's say if it's a TV show, when they do it like a season every 3 years or whatever, because production's crazy, or a film that takes 5 years, you only get that other bite of the apple after 5 years. Like, I almost look at it as a benefit with technology and with so many things at our hand, in our fingertips. Dude, we could be popping out a million things, but it's hard to get over that hump, and everyone's distracted on TikTok.
Yeah, and you have to choose, you have to choose where you put your energy. Like, what is it that you want to focus on? And,
Exactly.
and put it there.
All right, I think that's pretty good for today. Hidden gems, you already did yours. Let me just throw this one out. This happened last week, but I feel like everyone should kind of get it on their radar because I had a great time. There was a conference. It was, people might have heard of this huge photo store. It's called B&H. It's like this mecca of photo and film gear. There's it's based out of New York, but I believe there might be a couple locations around the country. Anyway, they had a huge expo for 2 days in New York. I didn't know what it was, to be honest. It was free for everyone. It was amazing. They had so many vendors there. You could play with new gear. It's for photographers, content creators. Everyone was there, especially in New York. You could imagine it was mobbed just by photographers alone. They had incredible panels. I'll probably be putting some of them on my YouTube, but and talking about it in future episodes. But so much wisdom there. They had a free cruise, a sunset cruise in New York for one of the days. Just, hey, show up, or they had a lottery for people just to be on a cruise with free food and drinks. It was incredible. I don't know how much they're going to be able to do this if they could do it every year. Anyway, just want to throw that out there, and met a lot of new friends. It was a great environment. Build Expo, that's my hidden gem.
Good gem.
And that's it. Yours was Art of War.
The War of Art.
The War of Art. Not the...
Not to be confused with,
Sun Tzu's epic.
Sun Tzu's The Art of War. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which probably a great book too.
Yeah, exactly. No, that one's a good one
either.
too.
Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with either of them. Yep. Little bonus gift for you there. I just texted you the song that I recorded back in the early 2000s.
Oh, you're kidding me. Wow, you actually had it?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Someone sent it to me. Actually, yeah, a pal of mine sent it to me. I didn't know where to find it. Yeah, I didn't write it. I just sang it.
It's up to you if you want to put it in the show notes.
You can stick it at the end of the podcast. After the credits, you can tack it onto the end.
Wait, hold on. Wait, are there going to be copyright issues? Has this ever been publicly released? Who owns it technically?
I have no idea. But it's
Okay,
like
because-
20-something years old.
Because
So,
we might
yeah.
get ripped off. We might get ripped down if we actually put music in our show. So let's
That's
double
very
check
true.
that. Anyway, so Rían might be a pop star after this episode. So this might be his last episode
Yeah,
here.
this is from the early 2000s, guys. I was in my early 20s.
Rían and Benson Boone. All right. Well, that's our show, everyone. Enjoy. Leave us a review. Leave us a like if you get a chance. And see you next week.
See you next week.